First things first, when I got home from LA, from E3, I found that my disc plates had arrived. And this time they're Witcherino. That's right, CD Projekt Red has actually partnered up with Displate to make official CD Projekt Red disc plates. There's a whole bunch of like Witcher stuff there. I'm sure we'll get some Cyberpunk stuff there eventually. You can click the link in the description below to like check out the whole range of stuff that I recommend. And it's really good and I really rate it. And that's the end of the promo. On to the video. So, E3 is over. I was there. I was in the crowd for all the big events, except for the Bethesda and EA ones, since they wouldn't let me in the building. Almost everything that was playable on the show floor, I played it. It was an absolutely absurd 5 days of non-stop video game euphoria, and had I not been loving every second of it, I likely would have collapsed in a heap on the show floor somewhere between the Bethesda booth and the pretty big empty space formerly known as Sony. So let's discuss the winners and losers of E3 2019. So with that out of the way, let's talk about something actually interesting. The future. I want to talk about what this E3 means, not just for 2019, not just for 2020, and not just for 2077. I want to talk about where each of the publishers, developers, and console manufacturers are headed in the longer term, and what those individual choices will mean for the industry as a whole. The industry is about to go through a massive change, perhaps the largest since Xbox Live revolutionized the online experience on consoles, opening the path for both mainstream online multiplayer and new monetization through DLC and microtransactions. I'm talking about subscription models. I'm talking about the evolution of the live service video game. I'm talking about streaming platforms. I'm talking about the fact that if you want to play Halo Infinite on the new Xbox Scarlet, you don't even need to own the new Xbox Scarlet. You can just play it on your phone. Trust me, things are about to get really weird. In Los Angeles at E3 2019, I peered into the future, ladies and gentlemen. Here are the 8 trends that I saw there that I think will define our industry over the coming years. For years now, live services has been the catch cry of every AAA publisher keen to invest the work to develop a AAA game and then monetize it long after that, avoiding the need to invest the money into the development of a sequel like they did back in the olden days. Don't get me wrong, not all live services are bad. In fact, if you look at each individual live service game in isolation, they're actually pretty good. They provide more content for eager fans to enjoy at prices typically cheaper than a $60 sequel would demand. But baked into this whole equation are the microtransactions, the overpromised, under-delivered updates, the confusing carving up of content packs, and the strain it puts on developers, many of whom describe a forever changed games development environment, one that more resembles the permanent crunch typically reserved for release windows. It's been said many times that live services are the MMORPG of this generation, and I fully agree with this. The gold rush bubble of yesteryear popped when developers realized that feeding the beast was too expensive and that consumers only had time for one MMORPG anyway, so 10 of them trying to compete against each other was always going to end up in heartbreak for at least most of the contenders. From what I can see, 2018 feels like the year that the dam broke and the publishers wised up to the realization that live services just aren't the smartest play anymore. From the teething issues of the Destiny and Division franchises to the collapse of Fallout and Bethesda's brand, bleeding into the disastrous 2019 launch of Anthem, it's become painfully clear that these high-risk rolls of the dice just aren't good business anymore. That's why you saw comparatively fewer live service games announced at E3 2019. We had Phantasy Star Online 2, but that's a port of a Japanese game released back in 2012. The only game that proudly took to the stage to declare itself a live service was Square Enix's Avenger game, which had perhaps the most disastrous reveal of the entire show, owing to some truly bad character design and the desire to crow about their live service elements and their PS4 exclusive content before showing us any actual fucking gameplay. I saw the gameplay, by the way. It's actually pretty good. It's kind of weird they didn't show that, but anyway, let's focus. Let's continue with the video. Over the last year, live service has become a dirty word, or 2 words. And that's why the Avengers reveal felt so on the nose. People are tired of roadmaps and big promises. They just want to know that they're getting a complete package on day one. The Avengers explicitly promised us that we weren't getting the complete package on day one, and we're all wise enough to see through that now. And I don't trust any roadmap to deliver us the Hawkeye that I know we deserve. While we aren't seeing new live services coming, we are seeing the maturation of the live service model. Destiny 2 is going free to play. The Division 2 announced its coming content. Warframe is gearing up for its next major expansion. Final Fantasy 15 is about to drop its big expansion. World of Warcraft has its next big content drop happening like next week. Borderlands 3 is coming. Battlefield is dropping its new maps, and I'm sure there's plenty of others that I've forgotten for the moment. These games have found their audiences and will continue to deliver content to them. None of these games are going anywhere, but nor are there new games announced to join their ranks anytime soon. The maturation of this model poses a significant challenge to publishers. Over the last 5 years, all of them have invested heavily in a business strategy that's beginning to feel outdated and overcrowded. It's all the more challenging for them given that live services have been extremely lucrative, since the incremental spend required to make $1 is significantly more attractive than needing to invest in a big budget sequel. It also means that they could push out unfinished games and just toss us a roadmap and say, shut up, don't complain, there's a roadmap, and that's obviously cheaper than shipping a complete game. With people cottoning on to all of this, publishers are going to need to figure out how to plug this hole in their profit and loss sheet pretty damn quickly. Either way, I'm glad this trend is on the way out. I've loved many of these live service games, but I'm at the point where someone who plays video games for a living, does not have the time to keep up with all of them. I'll be glad to see the work of talented developers redirected towards more finite experiences, releasing complete games without roadmap promises and microtransactions. At least that's the dream. The rapid decay of Bethesda and EA. As business models change, so too do publishers. This year we saw the regular press conference events we always do, filled with the cringe we've come to expect.
In PC gaming, it's not the size of your weapon, it's how you use it.
But buried in the tea leaves were some important clues about where each of these entities are headed. EA's greatest kindness this year was that they had the decency not to subject us to another press conference like last year's, what with its 20-minute mobile game showdown and sports bloated blasting of boringness. Despite the absence of a press conference, EA still showed off gameplay for Jedi Fallen Order, which looks kind of meh if you ask me. As well as Battlefield 5 maps, a new character for Apex Legends, a new Sims 4 expansion, and new modes for FIFA and Madden. I can't help but feel that EA is slowly backing away from this whole core gaming thing. Battlefield 5 and Anthem both bombed, and the road to recovery for both of those games is long and expensive. Apex Legends launched strongly, but its revenue is declining sharply as it's crushed by the sheer volume of content that Fortnite manages to push out on a regular basis. Sure, we have Fallen Order coming, but with the promise of no microtransactions and no multiplayer, you get the feeling that EA are just kind of letting this happen just to shut everyone up, rather than pivoting their business towards this brave new world of good games for a fair price. You saw Xbox last year proudly declare that they will not abandon the core gaming space. They yelled it loud and proud and bought a ton of studios to make that happen. What did EA do this year when faced with criticisms from gamers calling them out of touch and irrelevant? They just cancelled their press conference. I don't know, I just get the feeling that EA know which side their bread is buttered on. When faced with a choice between making billions of dollars by scamming sports fans who won't complain, or squeezing out a tiny fraction of that by propping up BioWare, DICE, and Respawn, all the while suffering the hostility of an angry core gaming audience, I think I can guess which way the board of directors is going to land on that one. I think the same transformation is mirrored in Bethesda, who in the span of just a few years has gone from one of the publisher darlings to an absolute pariah. Fallout 76 sits at the center of all of that, and no amount of paid screaming from that dude at the front is going to obscure the fact that Fallout 76 was the Chernobyl to Bethesda's reputation as a nuclear power in gaming. Its radioactive shadow looms large over every word Todd utters and every promise Bethesda dares to make. Unbowed, Bethesda announced they'd be adding human NPCs to Fallout 76, as well as a battle royale mode, because if there's one thing that Fallout's horrendous weapon mechanics and PvE focused community were crying out for, it's a battle royale mode. Funny story, we were actually staying in the same hotel as the Fallout 76 development team, and that made for some very, very awkward elevator rides. Beyond this, Bethesda felt the need to add further insult to injury by rubbing our faces in their mobile Elder Scrolls garbage and destroying our childhoods with even more mobile garbage. A Commander Keen mobile game that absolutely no one asked for. More like Commander Not Keen, am I right, guys? Much like EA, Bethesda are doubling down on their mobile strategy, and they're doing it in a way that's designed to appeal to the broader mobile market rather than to us as core gamers. I'm sure that Bethesda will make a lot of money doing this, but it's certainly not for us. Personally, I'm super interested in the games that Bethesda are publishing, like Ghostwire Protocol, Deathloop, Wolfenstein Youngblood, and Doom Eternal, but I don't care in the slightest about anything that Bethesda themselves have a hand in, so Starfield better be pretty damn good if they're going to win back the core gaming audience. I went to the PC Game Show, which is run by PC Gamer, but this year, for the first time, was actually sponsored by Epic Games. I went primarily because the event was open to the public and I wanted to hear some booing. Sadly, there was no booing, but there were a few awkward silences whenever Epic was mentioned. In fact, the event went to great lengths to even avoid using the word Epic, instead choosing the blanket term sponsors where one might have expected a specific Epic shout-out.
Well, I first want to thank our sponsors for helping make this event possible. Without their support, this event would not happen each year, so thank you so much.
I watched from 3 rows back as Mordhau 2, Chivalry 2, was revealed and announced as an Epic exclusive, and I was there when Shenmue sold out its backers by going Epic exclusive, subsequently refusing to offer refunds to any customers disappointed by this bait and switch. Very, very dick move. As I listened to all of this and I saw how dirty a word Epic has become, and I saw the Borderlands posters making fun of the deal, it dawned on me that Epic were losing this battle and they were losing it big. No one likes Epic. No one. I don't hate them as much as other people do because I believe they have the right to do whatever they like. They're a business, whatever. But I don't like them either because of the way that they've actively encouraged Kickstarters to abandon their communities that have made their games possible. That's on those developers, absolutely. But it's also on Epic for being that little, devil over the shoulder, tempting them to do something they shouldn't be doing in the first place. It leaves a bad taste, and I think that the brand damage that Epic has inflicted upon itself at this point is just too severe. You know what I think was the real nail in the coffin for Epic this year though? Microsoft. Microsoft are gearing up for the next generation, and PC is a big part of their strategy. If Tim Sweeney ran Xbox, he'd shut down the Xbox ecosystem so that all the games were only available on Xbox storefronts and Xbox devices. But that's not the future of gaming. The future is multi-device and multi-platform. That's why Xbox are releasing almost all of their games on both Steam and the Xbox storefront, so gamers can choose where they want to buy it. That's about as stark a contrast to Epic as you can conjure up. Tim Sweeney claims to be motivated by a desire to break Steam's monopoly and give consumers a better, more competitive market. The nail in the coffin for Epic is that this is already happening through GOG, through Microsoft's Steam-friendly approach, through the new Microsoft app, through Discord, through subscription services, through Stadia, and likely dozens of other platforms we don't even know about yet. When you stand back and take all of this in, it becomes clear that Epic isn't only losing the battle, they're fighting the wrong war, as the unitary storefront they're trying to build will be a relic of the past in but a few short years. Look, all I'm trying to say with all of this is Epic Games bad. I just played through probably the best VR game on PS4, Blood and Truth, and I just bought both the Oculus Rift S and the Oculus Quest. I'm working on a video at the moment. In my view, VR is beginning to hit its stride as an interesting, worthwhile platform. There's still limits to the technology, there's still a shortage of must-play games, but there's enough there that if you were to invest in VR, you're probably going to have some great experiences that you couldn't get anywhere else, and you'll get your money's worth. At the very least, it's a platform worth talking about. Not so, according to E3 2019. Of the hundreds of games showcased throughout the various press conferences, not a single one of them was VR. Maybe I missed one, but I watched every single press conference, most of them in person, and I didn't see any VR titles there. Most of this can be explained by the absence of Sony, who have invested heavily in the PSVR ecosystem to respectable success. Had they been there, we would have no doubt seen at least something from them, but in their absence it fell to the PC developers who chose to not deliver. Walking the floor of E3, you still saw plenty of smaller VR titles, as well as a fairly large Oculus booth as part of Facebook Gaming, but that was it. And it really made me reflect on just how far VR has to go before it becomes a mainstream part of gaming. Because for every Beat Saber and Skyrim VR, there are dozens or hundreds of pokey, buggy, nauseating VR titles that serve more as tech demos than actual products. Hell, even on the Oculus store, most of the stuff is still that VR experience stuff we roll our eyes at. This is a very, very young platform, and without the patronage of Sony to push them into the limelight, it's easy to forget that it even exists at all. The biggest blow that VR was dealt this year, though, was that Xbox did not mention it at all with their reveal of Project Scarlet. Xbox has always been very hesitant about investing in VR, preferring the augmented reality approach through their HoloLens headset, but there were rumors that they were reversing course on this for the next generation. Not so, it would seem. For now, VR does not appear to be a focus for them, while Sony have made very clear that VR is very much there to stay as part of the PlayStation ecosystem. Still, I think this is the last year we won't see a strong VR presence. Some of the experiences I've had with VR have been incredible, and the Oculus Quest is a complete game changer, being a completely self-contained unit so you don't need to plug it into a PC or console. It's like the Nintendo Switch of VR, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. VR is really going to rock people's world pretty soon. I'm 90% sure of that, but right now it's not there yet, and E3 demonstrated that very clearly. I was there when our Lord and Savior descended from up on high to grace us with his divine woeness.
CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk 2077.
The arrival of Keanu in Cyberpunk 2077 felt like one of those astral convergences where like all the planets align and then the toilet water starts flowing backwards. You're talking about a dude who is absolutely central to sci-fi and action cinema and has been over the past 20 years, who also happens to be the most loved human of 2019, starring in the leading role of the defining sci-fi action game of this generation, made by the most beloved developer. Just full stop really, except for maybe like Nintendo, but that's about it. His place in this game was just so right on every level, and CD Projekt Red should be commended for pulling off what was probably the most exciting moment E3 has ever seen. But Keanu wasn't the only celebrity to make an appearance in a game this year. We had Forrest Whitaker in Fallen Order, you had that John Bernthal Punisher dude from Walking Dead. He's in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. That guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is making a TV show based on the life of game developers. It's a comedy. Didn't look very funny, but hopefully it will be. The Division confirmed that the Division movie was still being made, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Earlier we heard that Tom Holland will star as a young Nathan Drake in an upcoming Uncharted movie, and he just starred in a commercial for Final Fantasy XIV.
You don't need that sword, man. You're not the warrior of darkness.
Yes, I am. Look at my sword.
You're from West London. That's the really nice part of London. Relax, man.
Ubisoft have already set up a film and television studio. Netflix are making a Witcher series and a Zelda series. Shit is getting very real. Here's my spicy hot take prediction. As the sun begins to set on the Marvel Comics universe, expect video games to try and step up and fill that void. Video games house some of the most beloved franchises in entertainment, some of them stretching back 30 years, and almost none of them, except Mortal Kombat, have had an awesome movie or TV show to do them justice. Except Mortal Kombat. Just imagine what Sony could do if it set its mind and its budget to an HBO-style God of War series, or we finally got that Metal Gear movie we all deserve. That day is coming. The games companies are gearing up for it, and E3 2019 was as clear an indication as any that it's on the way.
We're all sleeping with them this time.
Yes! Yeah! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh my, wait, no! Why? Wait, no! No freaking way!
Banjo-Kazooie! Oh, shit!
Oh my god, yes!
Yes!
There are a few companies that can make grown-ass men do this using little more than a golden jigsaw piece and a dopey-looking bear. Nintendo is one of those companies. Their unparalleled stable of IP, their relentless, ferocious commitment to quality, their consumer centricity, and their endless, ageless charm has well and truly ensconced Nintendo deep into our hearts. This year, Nintendo continued doing what they've always done with the Nintendo Directs, just showed tons of gameplay from awesome games we'd love to play. We saw Pokemon Sword and Shield, Luigi's Mansion, Link's Awakening, Astral Chain, which looks awesome by the way, Daemon X Machina, and Cadence of Hyrule, which is actually out right now, funnily enough. All of this culminated in the reveal of a Breath of the Wild 2, a sort of probably sequel to Breath of the Wild, like the Majora's Mask to the Ocarina of Time. It's so exciting to imagine what this team can do with this already phenomenal sandbox when they can just spend more time designing gameplay scenarios instead of building an entirely new world, so I'm totally down for this. In regards to the future, it seems to me that Nintendo are the safest of all of the big three. Xbox and Sony are both going to be competing with the latest graphics and cloud computing and streaming and subscription packages and all sorts of other technology buzzwords. Everything they do is going to carry with it tremendous cost and tremendous risk, and neither of them have anywhere near the sort of IP that Nintendo does. Look, I love Kratos as much as the next guy, but that dude is nothing compared to the IP powerhouse that is Mario or Luigi or Waluigi, for God's sake. The next generation is going to be a real 15-round, knock 'em down, beat 'em up fight between Microsoft and Sony, but Nintendo don't have to worry about any of that. Even if their hardware business completely collapses, they'll still be a wildly successful publisher because nobody does what Nintendo does as well as Nintendo does it. And that's convenient because their hardware business is about to face an existential challenge the likes of which none of us have seen before.
What if everybody in the world could play Halo? What if everybody in the world could play Red Dead Redemption? Everybody in the world could play the games. What would we have to do in order to make that possible?
In order to do that, we believe we need to build a game streaming service.
We see game streaming as a great technology, giving you access to the games that you want to play on the device that you want to play them on.
All right, hold your downvotes. I know everyone hates streaming and they think it's the devil, but trust me when I tell you it's really not. And if this exists as a choice on top of your local hardware, you're actually really going to like this. Let me explain. Earlier in the week, I sat down with Project X Cloud, which is Microsoft's cloud streaming platform, similar to something like Google Stadia. Some dude handed me a controller with a phone mounted onto it, and in that moment, I was immediately playing Halo 5 60 FPS on a mobile phone. Yes, there was a slight latency, but it was so minor that I didn't even care. I was just blown away that I was playing 60 FPS Halo in my hands. The internet was a standard 130 down, 30 up, which I know is not standard in a lot of countries, but it is standard in a lot of places, and 5G is coming and it's coming soon. Australia is the world's leader in shit internet, and even we have 5G rolling out here soon, so there's cause to be optimistic. Beyond the connection issue, I know a lot of people have concerns about latency, but they'll solve that problem in no time. Just this week, ID Software unveiled Project Orion, a patented technology that they claim significantly reduces latency when streaming games like this. This tech isn't even out yet, and it's already getting hacked and improved. The impact of this technology cannot be overstated. During E3, it was announced that The Witcher 3 was finally coming to Nintendo Switch. The whole adventure in the palm of your hand. Hands plural. Great. Awesome. Love it. Fantastic. Right? A day later, it was revealed that it would run at 540p while undocked. 540p! That is not good. But even before this announcement, the second the port was announced, my first thought was, why the hell would I want to play the downgraded Switch port when I could stream it to my phone or my iPad, playing it on a screen basically as large as the Switch's and with a more comfortable controller while enjoying 2K resolution and 60 FPS? Why would I ever want to play a Switch port ever again when I can do that? Now I get it. Flights, train tunnels, bad internet, whatever, I don't know, all sorts of bullshit. I know there are barriers, but are those barriers so significant that they'd prompt you to buy another dedicated handheld device next generation? I don't think so. I do not believe there will be a Nintendo Switch 2 because this streaming technology makes it redundant in 95% of circumstances, and that number will only go up each year. Nintendo has some serious questions to ask about the future of their hardware business. This tech also fundamentally changes the nature of the console landscape. Firstly, console exclusives as we know them will cease to exist. Let's say you're a PS4 guy and you don't own an Xbox, but you want to play Halo Infinite. No problem. So long as your internet is good enough, you'll be able to buy Xbox Game Pass for $15 a month and stream Halo Infinite to whatever device you own. TV, computer, tablet, phone, whatever. You just have to put up with some latency, but are you going to tell me that you'd rather spend $400 on a new console to play one game? No, you will probably just put up with a little bit of latency and be glad that you could play it on your lunch break on your phone while you're at work. We're talking about a console generation free of consoles, and the technology is basically finished. Like, you look at something like VR, and you can immediately see that it's got so many years ahead of it before it reaches the future we're all imagining. You pick up Project X Cloud, and you can immediately feel that this tech is 95% the way there, and the remaining 5%, it's only a matter of time. Like I said, I know everyone hates this stuff. I know everyone's so skeptical about streaming. My country is the worst internet on the fucking planet, okay? But I'm telling you, man, like, just what I experienced over there, there's no way this is not at least a big part of the future. It's definitely happening, and it really is playing perfectly into Xbox's hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Xbox One.
6 years ago, Microsoft dropped one of the biggest deuces in gaming history, the Xbox One X reveal event.
Xbox, watch TV. TV, TV, TV. TV, TV, watch TV, 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 TV remote, TV experience, TV, 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 sports TV, TV, TV.
This event was a disaster of such epic proportions that it cost Xbox their massive, unassailable lead over Sony that they secured during the 360 era. Xbox One lost the console generation so comprehensively that it isn't even a question, and it all started with this terrible, terrible reveal event. Central to the failure of that event and the strategy behind it was the idea that your Xbox One X would do more than just play games. It would allow you to watch TV, because everyone still watches TV, am I right, guys? It could record TV, it could play sports ball, it could play the new Call of Duty, it had a stupid camera thing that nobody wanted and you could yell things at it.
Xbox, go home.
All of this gave the consumer choice and options to do everything, but the one thing the Xbox was meant to do, play video games. This, coupled with Microsoft's failure to invest in first-party studios, a ludicrously complicated approach to trading in old games, and hardware specs that were worse than those offered by the PS4, really sealed the deal. This generation was a lost one for both Microsoft and Xbox fans alike. Last year, Phil Spencer got up on stage and made clear that the Xbox would not take this defeat lying down, promising that its library of exclusives would be second to none in the coming generation, and buying up half a dozen talented studios to make good on that promise. We're already seeing the fruits of that strategy. Ninja Theory, who had recently delivered the superb Hellblade, are now dishing up Bleeding Edge. It's like Overwatch, only with more of a melee focus. It's fucking cool. It was legitimately the most fun thing I played at E3. Check it out if you get a chance. I also saw The Outer Worlds from Obsidian. Now, this isn't an Xbox exclusive, but Obsidian got bought by Xbox, so their next title will be. What I saw of Outer Worlds was so good, and I cannot wait to play it and everything else Obsidian puts out after that. This year at E3, we're all hoping that Microsoft would show up with a big box and plonk it down in the middle of the stage and say, boom bitch, graphics with an X, games, sexy controller, backwards compatibility, buy it this holidays, $3.99. Mic drop. That didn't happen. Instead, we learned that the next Xbox doesn't have a final name and it won't be out until holiday 2020. We learned that it's aiming for 8K resolution, which is just bullshit nonsense, ignore that. And we also learned they're aiming for 120 FPS, which is actually doable, but that's entirely up to the developers. We're missing the name, the box, and the final specs, but can I be edgy boy here and tell you that I really don't think these things matter at this point. Graphics aren't the be-all and end-all that they used to be, and this next generation won't be won by the highest number of rendered polygons on screen. Instead, it's going to be won by two things: good games and the choice provided by services. Xbox has already committed to making all of their exclusives available on PC, and most of those through Steam as well as Xbox storefronts. They've just launched the Xbox Game Pass for PC, which offers an absolutely ridiculous amount of value for $15 a month. No other deal in gaming comes remotely close. They've relaunched their Xbox PC app, which will effectively bridge the gap between console and PC permanently. They're going to launch Project xCloud, giving you the freedom to play your games wherever the hell you want on whatever device you want. You won't even need to own an Xbox to be able to be part of the Xbox ecosystem and play their exclusive games. And not for nothing, but they also have the only accessibility controller on the market, making it easier for people with a disability to play games. You may look at all the above and think that Xbox are repeating the mistakes of last generation by promising all of this stuff that no one was really asking for, but the key difference here is that all of this is about video games. It's not about bullshit TV or sports or some gimmick camera. It's about saying, hey you, over there, PC gamer who's never even thought about buying a console, we've got something for you. I'm sure the next box is going to be plenty powerful, but this range of services that Microsoft have outlined are the true competitive advantage that Microsoft will bring to the table this coming generation. And it's all very smart as well, because Sony cannot compete along the same lines. Sony doesn't have hundreds of millions of PCs running Windows with an Xbox app automatically installed. They don't have the ability to reach out to the PC gaming crowd the same way that Microsoft can. Nor can they offer an ecosystem beyond their own console. Sony will be fine, don't get me wrong. This coming generation, they'll be okay. Their stable of developers and exclusive IP completely dwarfs that of Xbox's, no question. But right now, I'm really drawn to Sony for its incredible library of exclusives, and I'm equally drawn to Xbox for the range of services and choice it's promising me as a PC and console gamer. The takeaway that I took from E3 2019 is that the console structure we've known and relied upon for some 40 years, with a box that sits under the TV and we just buy games for it and upgrade it every 6 or 7 years or whatever, all that is about to be radically upended in ways we can't even predict yet. Streamed games, Google entering the market, subscription services, the end of console exclusives, the blurring of the lines between console and PC gaming. All of this is right on our doorstep, and the battle between Sony and Microsoft will be fascinating to watch. Xbox has fired the first shots. Now we wait to see what the PS5 has in store for us.